What's up, everybody? We're back, and it's time for some more Malifaux lore. This week, we're talking about Som'er Teeth Jones of the Bayou. So spoilers coming up for all the Som'er stories, and you'll find a list of those stories in the description down below, so definitely check those out. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel, or you'll get attacked by a giant skeeter. And with that out of the way, let's get on to Som'er. Som'er leads a crew of gremlins in raids against the people of Malifaux and the guild along the edge of the bayou. Having observed the miners, Som'er learned a little bit about their hierarchy, namely that the man with the biggest hat and who speaks the loudest is in charge. In the course of some of his raids, he found what the humans call shine and began distributing it among his people. He got his nickname when he took the butt of a guild rifle to the face, knocking out several of his teeth. He pointed to the teeth on the ground, saying "Som'er here," and then pounced on the guardsman, ripped out the man's teeth with his hands, and pointed to them on the ground and said, "Som'er there." His raids have earned him a reputation among the guild, and they even put a bounty on his head, an honor that gives Som'er a sense of pride. After raiding a prospector's camp, Som'er watches as another gremlin cuts up and prepares some horse meat. Another gremlin complains that he prefers pork and asks why they're eating the horse. Som'er angrily replies that they need the pigs for fighting, and the gremlin apologizes to him. Som'er calms down, but then thinks better of it, and drags the gremlin over to a pig pen and throws him inside. All the gremlins crowd around and watch as he tries to evade the angry pigs, who are trying to skewer him. He plays around, seeing that everyone is watching, but gets overconfident, and one of the pigs rams him hard. He decides to try to escape from the pen, and he almost makes it. Som'er returns to the fire and tells another gremlin to drag all the dead humans outside the camp to feed to the war pigs, as they're attracting flies. As they begin to eat, suddenly an explosion goes off, and the pigs get out of their pen and create a stampede. As the gremlins try to get to safety, they see that several humans are following behind the pigs and shooting at them. The gremlins turn to fight, but between the pigs and the expert shots of the humans, they don't stand a chance. Som'er realizes this and tries to run away, but one of the humans, Perdita Ortega, chases after him. When she catches up, she fires at him, catching him in the shoulder, and he spins around and shoots at her with his blunderbuss. The shot knocks her down, and he tries to get away, but one of her family members helps her up, and she shoots at him again. He ducks for cover behind what he thinks is a tree, but when he looks up, he realizes it's a statue covered in cryptic runes. He screams and flees into the bayou. Som'er was in a sour mood. He had been since the event took place, and the voices started speaking to him in his head using big words. They made him think about the bayou and his people, and what they would do if the bayou was suddenly taken away from them. Som'er didn't like thinking, and he felt it left him vulnerable to the other gremlins. As he thinks about this, he hears a metal clanking as Peaches, his loyal sow, approaches him. He pours himself a cup of shine off of the still on her back and pats her on the head. Later, Som'er sits on top of Peaches, addressing his people. He announces that he's been thinking, and it seems like time for them all to go out on a good old-fashioned adventure and bring some punishment to the humans like they've been doing to the gremlins. As the crowd cheers, Som'er considers that if the world's going to end, they might as well go out celebrating like there's no tomorrow. Zoraida shows up in Som'er's territory and tells him that she's called a meeting with all the gremlin leaders. The locals treat her like a celebrity, and Som'er is annoyed. After all, he's the one with the big hat. After a while, he hears creaking as a whiskey golem approaches, and he pushes his way through the assembled crowd to find the brewmaster. He greets him warmly, kissing his hand, and the brewmaster asks how Som'er's home brewing has been going. Som'er explains that it's better, as he hasn't been going blind as much. The brewmaster offers some of his newest brew, and when Som'er tastes it, he declares that it's amazing and is overcome with emotion. They're interrupted by Ophelia approaching, and when Som'er sees her, the two square off. They trade some jabs, and Som'er points out to her that he's got twice as many kin with him, so he'll easily win the fight. Ophelia responds that she doesn't care. After all, they have twice as many boomsticks. Then they are interrupted by a giant sow approaching. Bert Jebsen calls down from atop the sow, asking Som'er if he has any more of the shine left. Som'er compliments him on his huge pig and tells him that he's got to meet Peaches, but she's around back eating someone right now. Ophelia calls out and tells them that they got to get the show on the road, and a shrill voice responds that what the lady wants, the lady will get. A small gremlin jumps down from on top of the pig, wearing strange blue robes, and bows to Ophelia, introducing himself as Wong. Ophelia giggles, and Wong's mustache falls off as the glue that was holding it on was loosened by the humid weather. Som'er laughs, and Wong suddenly charges at him, holding a bladed fan to his throat and telling the larger man to watch his mouth. Som'er barely reacts, and then calmly tells one of his companions to go get Peaches. The situation de-escalates when Zoraida calls them all to attention, and all the assembled gremlins gather round to listen. She announces that things are changing and war is coming, but that none of them are ready for it. When one of the gremlins in the audience interrupts, telling her that they're good fighters, fingers. Zoraida tries to explain that each of them is like a finger, useless by itself, but what they need to do is come together into a fist. When they all look at her dumbfounded, she clarifies that what she's saying is they need to unite. Som'er yells out that he won't unite with Ophelia, and Zoraida responds that if that's true, then they're all dead. Som'er shoots back that that's according to her, and Zoraida goes quiet as the sky darkens and clouds form overhead. She calls out, her voice artificially amplified, and tells Som'er not to test her, and then threatens to crush all of his bones into dust. Som'er is about to reply, but thinks better of it, and everyone in the crowd is surprised to see him quieted. Zoraida calms down, and the clouds clear, and she then explains that they all have two choices. They can either go out alone, fighting by themselves and dying, or they can choose to make a pact and work together to crush their enemies. Som'er gives her a sullen look, and then agrees. A gremlin who is serving to help take care of Peaches observes Som'er in the throes of agony. He turns an ungremlinly shade of gray, and then suddenly stops moving. This was the result of a poisoning at the hands of a jilted woman. The gremlin, being not so smart, interprets this as Som'er dying, and news spreads around the bayou quickly. They all decide to host a Bayou Bash to determine who will be the next boss, and the whole bayou comes together for the event. When a winner is crowned, there's cheering and gunfire until a disturbance makes its way through the crowd. Som'er Teeth Jones appears and yells at everyone to keep it down as he's sleeping off a hangover. As he walks away, all the assembled gremlins look at him in astonishment. Som'er meets Zoraida and Ophelia in the bayou against his better judgment. The women make a joke that goes over his head, and he gets impatient. Zoraida explains that big wheels are turning, and if they all aren't careful, they'll be left behind. Som'er is confused, and she asks him if he remembers the war she said was coming, and explains that the people in Malifaux are preparing for it. She says that she's aware of some of the things that are going on, but she's more worried about the things that have slipped past her. She tells him she wants him to figure out what she missed and where it's hidden. Som'er tries to think about where in the conversation he lost the thread, and asks Zoraida who is hiding what. Ophelia responds, the Miners and Steamfitters Union. Som'er asks if he's going to fight someone, and Zoraida asks him if he can hold his liquor as well as she has heard. He confirms proudly, and Zoraida comments that men tend to shoot their mouths off when they've been drinking. Seeing where this is going, Som'er objects, explaining that gremlins and big folks don't associate together. Ophelia agrees, but asks him if he's ever heard of a game called Bullet. Som'er replies that he has, and he's actually quite good at it. They stand in silence for several seconds before Som'er catches up, and Zoraida confirms that there's a game of Bullet being organized in the quarantine zone. She tells him that he'll be going in to get info not from an Arcanist, but from a freelance operative who brought something through the breach for the Arcanists and hid it. She hands him a big bag of coin to buy his way into the game. Suddenly, Som'er has a realization and points out that he can't play without a second, and neither of them look cut out to play a drinking game. Zoraida says that it's lucky that she already found him a second, as Brewmaster approaches from out of the bayou. Som'er bows to him, and Ophelia curtsies, while Zoraida merely nods. Brewmaster asks Som'er how his brewing is going, and Som'er produces a flask, offering it to Brewmaster. He takes a sip and compliments him on the flavor, and then takes out his own creation, and offers it to Som'er, who takes a sip and tells him that it's beautiful. Ophelia asks if they need some time alone, and Som'er yells back at her not to give him any of her sass. Zoraida tells Brewmaster that they were talking about how he'll be the second in a game of Bullet, and Som'er says that he's not worthy of the honor. Brewmaster scolds Som'er, telling him to stow it, and explains that he should be given his title and his proper respect, but that he won't tolerate any brown-nosing. Zoraida informs them that their target is a man named Von Schill, who runs a mercenary group called the Free Corps. Som'er and Brewmaster make their way to the city under the cover of darkness. When they arrive at the secret location, they pay off the guard to allow them to enter, where they find the other human players. They are all surprised to see gremlins in attendance, but Von Schill barely reacts. When the game starts, Som'er and Brewmaster have to try some of the humans' alcohol, and they are both disgusted at how bland and tasteless it is. When the humans have to try the gremlin shine, they can barely get it down, as it's much stronger than what humans are used to. On several occasions, Som'er tries to engage Von Schill in conversation, but the man proves to be very tight-lipped. After several other players bow out from being too drunk, Brewmaster convinces Som'er to play one last hand, and Som'er racks his brain to try to figure out how he'll get the information out of Von Schill. Brewmaster pours Von Schill a drink, and after the man takes the shot, Brewmaster casually asks where he hid the Arcanist cargo. To Som'er's surprise, Von Schill answers, giving them the location. Som'er is shocked as Brewmaster hurries him out of the building. He asks what happened, and Brewmaster explains that he gave Von Schill a truth serum. Som'er asks him why he didn't just give the truth serum to begin with, and Brewmaster replies that he hasn't played a good game of Bullet in a while, and he likes to drink. As the Governor General tries to ascend and fails spectacularly, Som'er, Ophelia, and Ma Tucket were having a standoff in the bayou. Everyone in the bayou knows that the bosses like to get together and puff up their chests in a show of aggression. As they all stare at each other, suddenly there's a crash, and the lucky emissary crashes out from a nearby building and rolls away. The three bosses look at each other and all shrug. When the Governor General died, it was of little concern to the people of the Bayou. Som'er was much more concerned with the nearby LeBlanc family. They had been poaching his pigs for a long time, but the last straw came when a member of their family spilled his beer. Som'er brought several of his men to the LeBlanc territory and opened fire with a heavy barrage. They hit mostly vegetation but were satisfied and returned to their homes. In response, a member of the LeBlanc family came to the next Bayou Bash with 2 hats sewn together to make one giant hat. There was debate across the bayou as to whether this was legitimate, but it was clear to Som'er that it was an insult. Som'er attends the annual Chugmugs celebration, a gremlin holiday where they all get together and drink. One of Zip's sky pirates that was angry he was put on guard duty decides to steal the stockpile of alcohol, but accidentally destroys it all in the process. Brewmaster finds the sky pirate and teaches him a lesson about the meaning of Chugmugs and how it brings all the gremlins together. They return to the gathering with the last surviving barrel of shine, and Som'er emerges and is shocked to see that all the alcohol is gone. Brewmaster explains that he sent the sky pirate to fetch the last surviving barrel. Zip is about to chew out the sky pirate, but Brewmaster tells him that he's the one that saved the celebration. One of Som'er's subordinates approaches him and warns him that the guild is getting riled up. Som'er is dismissive, explaining that the guild is always riled up, but the gremlin insists, explaining that they have begun moving against any human who has ever had dealings with the bayou. Som'er is surprised, wondering if they'll come after the gremlins next. All of the gremlin families gather at a meeting. The leaders of the families start bickering over how to handle the situation before Zoraida calls their attention and then announces that Som'er has something to say. He addresses the crowd and explains that the rumors are true and that the new Governor General and the guild is coming for them. He says that they want them all dead and that now is the time for the families to unite so that they can stand against the humans. Zoraida is pleased and goes to address the crowd, but Som'er clears his throat loudly and she asks if there was something he wanted to add. Som'er takes a second to muster his courage and then tells Zoraida that he appreciates what she's trying to do, but that this is a gremlin issue and she is not a gremlin. Zoraida is about to respond, but someone in the crowd yells out in support of Som'er, and soon the whole crowd is chanting his name. Zoraida looks around angrily, but realizes the odds are against her and decides to walk off without making a scene. Som'er continues, explaining that the gremlins need a leader, like the humans have the Governor General. They need a Gremlin General. He explains that as he is Zoraida's favorite, that he should be the one to lead them. And immediately a fight breaks out. All of the gremlins in attendance begin shooting and beating each other, and Ma calls out to Som'er that she would never follow a fat oaf like him. Som'er responds that he would never take orders from a girl, and the violence only stops when Brewmaster calls out enough. They all agree that they'll never just be able to decide who's their leader, but Zip speaks up and explains that his chief engineer told him about a human idea called democracy, where they vote for their leaders. Everyone is against the idea, but after a short discussion, they start coming around on it, and Som'er approaches Brewmaster and asks him if he thinks it's a good idea. Brewmaster responds that it might work as long as they all agree to follow whoever is chosen. They all decide to return here in a month for their vote. Som'er calls a meeting with his family to discuss the voting. A gremlin in attendance asks him who he thinks will be voted the Governor General, and Som'er shoots him dead. The other gremlins all agree that Som'er will win, but then one points out that the other families don't like him very much and may not vote for him. Som'er also shoots him dead. Another gremlin speaks up and says he's got an idea that they could all vote for someone who the other families would pick, but who Som'er could control. When they return for the voting, Brewmaster and Wesley oversee the process, each gremlin waiting for their turn to vote in an orderly manner. The next day after the votes have been counted, Brewmaster announces that there has been a 3-way tie between Ophelia, Brewmaster himself, and Lenny Jones, Som'er's large but dim-witted son. Threats are exchanged and it gets tense, and Zip yells out that they wouldn't know good leadership if it bit him in the face, and declares that he and his crew's votes have been rescinded as they all take off and return to their ship. Wesley recalculates the vote, and then declares that there is now a 2-way tie between Ophelia and Lenny. They all argue again, but then Brewmaster interrupts and tells Ophelia that surely she must know that many gremlins won't follow a woman. Som'er agrees, but then Ma announces that she wants to change her vote. Som'er protests, but then Ma tells him that he had no right to speak down to Ophelia like that, and when Ophelia goes to thank her, she declares that she wants to change her vote to Lenny. Ophelia is shocked, and Ma tells her that they are not that friendly. Wesley declares that Lenny is the winner, and there's a pause before every gremlin begins cheering, if for no other reason than the fact that this process is over. Som'er tells Lenny to make a speech, and he addresses the crowd by telling them that he likes his piglet and it sometimes fits in his pocket, and everyone cheers. Som'er is at a meeting with the other gremlin leaders, and Ma Tucket says they should get the meeting over with. Som'er shoots back that it's not like she has anything to do anyway, and Ma tells him that she's got plans, unlike Som'er, whose head is an empty balloon. Som'er responds sarcastically and tells her that the next thing she's going to tell him is that she's organizing a raid against the Hollow Point Station. Ma responds that that's exactly what she has planned, and Trixie Belle looks at her confused, but Ma reiterates that they're going there to steal the Union's gadgets, as well as the Leviathan. Som'er insists that she must be spying on him because he had plans to raid Hollow Point, and the two argue about whose plan was better, until Ma says that if he's so smart, why don't they work together? She looks surprised at her own words, and Som'er is shocked as well, but she doubles down and says that they can do the raid side by side for all gremlin kind. Lenny says that he thinks it's a bad idea, but Som'er shuts him up and then tells Ma that he had the same thought. They shake hands and agree to see who can steal the most loot. Som'er did not have a plan to raid the Hollow Point Station. He tells Lenny that they're going to go on the joint operation, but stab Ma in the back. Lenny responds that he doesn't think she will like that, and Som'er tries to figure out how he's going to do it. He considers sabotaging the boats they'll need to cross the river, but realizes he won't know which family will be on which boats. Then a Bokor arrives and asks Som'er why he was called. Som'er explains that he wants a bridge built across the river, but not a normal kind of bridge. At their planning meeting, Ma explains to Som'er that she has new intel on the station concerning a train that moves in and out through a back gate. She tells him that her plan is to have some gremlins on that train, and Som'er jokes that he doesn't think the Union will sell him tickets. Ma explains that the Tuckets will be the ones to get on the train as they are the sneaky ones, while the Joneses, who are the tougher and stronger fighters, will attack the front gate. When Som'er looks suspicious, Ma explains that the Joneses are so tough that nobody will be able to stand against them in a fight. Lenny says that it sounds like they are a diversion, but Som'er shuts him up and explains that this is not a diversion, this is glory. They gather at a river that they need to cross to start their attack, and Ma asks Som'er why there are no boats. Som'er says that he has a plan, and a Bokor approaches the Tuckets. He tells them to all join hands and form a bridge across the river, and one of the Tuckets appears to be under a spell, but then he snaps out of it and tells the gremlin that he must be crazy. The Bokor turns around and tells Som'er that he knew it wasn't going to work, and he announces that they need a new plan and that someone should find the boats. Once they cross the river, they sack a village, stealing the alcohol and getting drunk in the process. The Tuckets leave to board the train, and Som'er waits with his family, who are now extremely drunk, to hear the train coming so they can launch their attack. He nods off, but then is awoken by the sound of the train's horn, and he realizes the time has come. He and his kin attack the front gate, fighting off the surprised Union members as they try to muster reinforcements. Soon Som'er realizes something is wrong, as the plan was to have the Joneses attack, while the Tuckets go in on the train and open the gate. The Joneses have launched the attack, and the Tuckets crash the train, but so far the gate is still not open. Som'er realizes that he's been double-crossed, and he tells Lenny what he suspects, and the boy responds that he told him so. Som'er tells him to shut up, and starts ordering his men to go around back so they can get to the loot before Ma. He's angry at her betrayal, in spite of the fact that he was planning to do the exact same thing. They fight their way to the mountain where the gadgets are held, and inside he finds Ma and her kin. He confronts the woman, but soon an explosion goes off behind him as the Union has them surrounded outside. He orders his people to grab what they can and get away, as a battle between the Joneses and the Tuckets begins. As the battle rages, Lenny finds a crate, and Som'er opens it to find it full of mechanical parts, and he explains that they are part of the Leviathan. He realizes he can't take them all himself, so he tells Lenny to start taking pieces and handing them to the other gremlins so that they can make off with them. Soon he realizes that they're accidentally handing the pieces out to the Tuckets as well as the Joneses, and Som'er gets angry. He picks up a blunderbuss that he found and confronts Ma, telling her that he's smarter than she thinks, and her trick didn't work on him. She tells him to go to hell, and he tries to fire the weapon, but it doesn't work. He and Lenny try fiddling with it to get it to work, and soon it explodes and shoots them out the front entrance. Outside, the Union has brought reinforcements, and the gremlins who are trying to escape are being cut down on their way. He sees Ma Tucket walk out and look around at the battle. She freezes and says, "We're in trouble now," and Som'er responds, "Yep." Ma turns to see him standing with a smaller version of the blunderbuss, and she tells him she's surprised he didn't shoot her in the back. He holds the gun up, smoke floating out of the barrel, and says, "Missed." They watch as the battle continues, and Som'er tells her that they're going to die if they don't work together. Ma agrees, but Som'er adds that he's still going to shoot her one day, and she responds that she'd be insulted if he didn't. They stand in silence for a moment, and then Som'er explains that he and his kin will go to the right, and that she and her kin should go to the left, and then they will pour hate and discontent at the Union until they go away. Then the gremlins can make their way back home, and not speak to each other for a while. Ma responds, "That's a fine idea." The arrival of the Burning Man throws the Bayou into a tizzy, and Som'er sees it as an opportunity to steal from the other Gremlin families. When he goes on these raids, his victims either end up dead or come looking for their goods. In that case, Som'er has Lenny declare a proclamation that the stolen items are being used for the democracy and that the Joneses are only borrowing them. Most people don't argue with this, but probably only because they're surrounded by heavily armed Joneses. Well, that's all for Som'er. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I really wish they would do a little bit more to incorporate the Gremlins into the larger story. They still sort of feel like they live in their own world, separated from the rest of the characters, with the exception of Zoraida and Zip. I do enjoy listening to stories about Gremlins fighting with each other, but it'd be cool to see some more interactions with the humans. Maybe that's something the Burning Man will drive them towards. But anyway, drop a comment below. Let me know what master you want to see me do a video on next. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And thanks for watching.